Everybody, Gen X man back with another video. Wow, what an episode. Daredevil Born Again, episode 4. Just got finished watching it and taking my notes and such. We're going to go through it here real quick, or as quick as I possibly can. So, first off, we open with a scene with Hector's effects being bagged and tagged, just like the poor fella. I mean, that's awful, especially considering the actor passed away. That is absolutely awful. I desperately wanted to see more of this fella. He was real good on screen, real good, charismatic, and it's just like, oh man, that just. But my main question with that, or my main problem with that was they're bagging up his stuff, and here's this mystical amulet that is represented in court as having mystical powers and such, and they're throwing it in a Ziploc. And I'm like, would you do that with Iron Man's armor? Thor's hand? Well, of course, not Thor's hand. We can't lift it. Cap's shield, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like there should be some protocols or something where, an item of obvious superhuman power doesn't just get tossed into a Ziploc bag and thrown in evidence where somebody could just five finger discount it out of there. And, that was part where I was just like, okay, that doesn't seem right, but whatever. And then we're introduced to Hector's niece there in the morgue. And oh my God, I don't know if she was intended to be represented as childlike in that situation. The actress, I looked her up, she's in her early 20s, I believe. But goodness gracious, she's tiny. She tiny. Tiny as my wife. Love you, baby. But I hope that they are not setting her up as the next White Tiger because it would it would almost be like watching Master Yoda prequels. There's this tiny little thing flying all over the screen where you're like, what the heck? Maybe they're going for the rabbit wombat look. I'm not sure. But yeah, I would think that they would cast. I know that there's a female white tiger in the comics. And if they're trying to set that up through the series about somebody taking over the mantle, personal request, I hope they get somebody more physically impressive. She's just tiny little thing. Oh, but moving on, she does make a good point that the system is broken. The cops ain't on the people's side, et cetera, et cetera. And Matt's desperate plea that somebody's gonna straighten this out and fix this, and somebody's gonna make it right and such. And he's just desperately trying not to be that. He doesn't want to be that guy because of I mean, and I have issues with that based on my previous review. Go ahead and check that out. But I just at this point I'm like, Matt, you're not even convincing yourself at this point. Like everybody knows you're going to put the mask back on, so let's just stop wasting time and just has the whole point put the mask on in the first place. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. They introduce I this character may have been introduced previously in some scenes. I think it was. I don't remember exactly, but the crazy killer guy. Um, at this point, I was like, okay, so you got Daredevil and Fisk, you got Punisher and Punisher's, fanboys and such, as he calls them. You've got the mobs, you got Vanessa, you've got all these conflicts and all these character dynamics, and then there's this guy too. I feel like this is one character too far. I'm not sure why they're introducing him. He doesn't appear to have anything to do with anything other than he's kidnapping some people and such, and I felt like he should like I feel like he's not integrated into the conflicts and plot of this season. He feels like an outlier, and that almost feels like bloat. Like he could have had his own season. Like maybe put him in season 2, and he's the point of the entire something like that. I don't know. It just feels like I'm sure there are people out there like, oh, it's that guy. I haven't read mainstream comics for quite a while, with some exceptions here and there. That's its own video. But this guy feels like I don't know. It's one too many people in the boat. So we'll see. We'll see. It may work out just fine. Uh, the character of Daniel. I am absolutely loving this guy. I am loving this character. The Sopranos actor's son. My goodness, he's an interesting character. He's so sincere and so passionate and such a believer. And you're just like, people don't watch entertainment for for cerebral reasons. They want to be entertained. And this character is entertaining. He's got an arc. You can see his arc. He believes in Fisk. He's in Fisk's corner. He's a devotee. And Fisk appreciates this. And I love it. I am here for this. This is good stuff. I want to see what happens with Daniel, and hopefully he doesn't get killed. We'll see. We'll find out how good he is. Uh, but on the opposite side, him hanging out with this BB Urich. BB Urich, in a previous video, I said, like, oh, is she going to be on the side of Fisk? Is she going to be on the side of the law? What's the conflict there? And now I'm like, seeing her in this episode, I'm like, nah, she just scum. She just absolute freaking scum. She's just like, she's sniffing out the next story, the next grabby headline to get, I don't know, what? Uh, does she even work for, is she a YouTuber? Like me? Is she a YouTuber and she's trying to grab the clicks and the headlines and such, or does she actually work for a paper? I haven't seen that represented. The BB report or whatever it is. It just seems like a piece that has no ties to an established media outlet, which makes me think she's probably a YouTuber and she's just looking for the next thing that's going to generate clicks. And that's her thing. She doesn't really care. She doesn't present herself as somebody who cares whether the law prevails, whether anarchy prevails, everything in between. She's just like, oh, I smell a story. I smell some clickbait. They call it. That's what she strikes me as right now. We'll see if that continues for however long this series is. I'm assuming 8 to 12 episodes. We'll see. And I love that they keep using graffiti in the episodes to reinforce the various factions. You've got the White Tiger, you got the False Punishers, you got the Fisk, etc., etc. I don't think we see one with Daredevil. I guess nobody's on Daredevil's side. He's not a faction. Maybe that's the point. They're not showing him because he hasn't gotten back in the ring, and therefore he's not represented in the visual, driving home the factions and the points and the conflicts and the various sides. And you're just like, oh, maybe. Uh, the hobo guy. What is his name? Leroy something or other. I love how when we first meet this guy, cops are picking him up for stealing, and he's lecturing the cops on eating craft food. It's just like, it's loaded with fat, it's bad for you. Which initially I was like, that's really funny. I was like, what is this hobo guy lecturing the cops on what to eat? Because at that point I didn't know what he stole, and I didn't know why he stole. So when he was initially presented as a character, I was like, this guy's funny. Who is this? More on him and a rant on him coming up. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. But the therapy session really didn't like. I'm really not liking these sessions. The longer we go, I feel like, for lack of a better term, Fisk is just getting cucked over there. Like uh, every time Vanessa says like, "Oh, you left," it's just a blanket, it's like, oh, it's okay. Whatever behavior she engaged in is fine because he left. And I'm like, that's not how that works. And I got the impression he was only gone for a matter of months. Like, like if I were to go off on a trip for months, my wife would miss me, but I would assume she wouldn't just run out and cheat. I say, baby, you wouldn't do that, would you? But in this therapy session, it's like, Fisk tries to express his outrage and his irritation at it. He's shut down by the counselor. The counselor then says, let's hear from Vanessa. Vanessa, would you like to share your feelings? Vanessa, yeah, it was just kind of like, can the man have a side here? Can he express like, hey, you cheated on me. I want to forgive you. I want to save the marriage. I still love you and adore you. I'm working towards forgiveness, but could you just give me the second to be like, that was crappy. That hurt my feelings, you know? And they're just like, no, no, you don't get to talk. This is Vanessa's time. And it's just like, come on, come on, come on, come on. Like I said, I don't like the therapist character, and I like her less as the series goes on. Just kind of like, yeah, she's just, let's see what else we got here. But I love the one thing I did love, the one thing I did absolutely love in that scene was that when they're leaving and the therapist Heather is wanting to talk to Vanessa privately. He said, like, are you safe? And Vanessa's like, LOL. Like, are you serious? It's like Fisk worships the ground she walks on. Like if she poured poison in his drink and handed it to him and said, prove your love, drink this, he would. Because he's that devoted to her. He just worships her, which is reinforced later in this very episode. And I love that she just looks at this therapist just like, are you freaking kidding? Are you for real right now? Come on. Because, I mean, that's that Heather, that's the first thing she goes towards. It's like, oh, this is an abusive relationship. Well, no, he's a violent man who's obviously just devoted to this woman. Just devoted. And on the side, like, and this is driven home later in the episode where Vanessa's like, people change, and Fisk is like, he's like, yeah, I adore you even more now because you're even more awesome. And she is. Like, if you want an image of what a queen looks like, that would be my guess. I haven't rubbed elbows with, the queen of this or that or anything like that. So I just assume I'll be like, whoa, this woman is imperious. You're just like, she cast down commandments from on high. It's like, oh, okay. So that I love that little interaction between her and the therapist, and she just brushed it off, just like, away, peasant. Your concerns do not apply to me. It was great. Oh, okay. So now we're getting that's his name, Leroy Bradford. I think he said his name was. Okay, out of the gates, out of the gates. This guy is just insulting to Matt and by extension the audience. I feel like this dude has a problem. This he just I don't know if he's got a chip on his shoulder, comes from a broken home, whatever his problem is. He is just like here he is complaining the system's not fair and then dumping on Matt for being blind. I'm like, pot, kettle, dude, come on. Yeah, I hated him. I hated him for the first 5 minutes. I was just like, oh God, this guy. Is this the same character that got picked up? I'm like, well, it's the same actor. And yet, I mean, he's lying about everything, denying everything, even though, I mean, he knows what he did. And he was, I mean, yeah, it was just, he stole some fiddle faddle, but still, it's still stealing, you know? When I was a kid, and the one time I tried it, got busted. It's like there were consequences. And I was like, you know what? The consequences aren't worth the behavior. He, not so much. He has decided that the law of society, to keep our society together and functioning, albeit not perfectly, but he keeps it functioning. He has decided those aren't things that he wants to behave with. He does not want those constraints. He just wants to do whatever he wants, and things are fine. And yet, he doesn't see the correlation between 20 to 25 pages of infractions and where he is now. It's like, come on, dude. This is a direct your life is linear. Like you can just see all the things you've done to make your own life worse every day. You've ticked off every institution. You've made an enemy of everything. And now you're like, woe is me. I just want dessert. At some point in those 20 to 25 pages of breaking the law, did you ever stop to think, maybe if I wasn't such a menace to society, I could have dessert? And also, buddy, there are people out there that toe the line that don't get dessert. I'm from West Virginia. I grew up on this crap. Ain't nobody get dessert except for rich people. But so I mean, I had absolutely no. It was more than not having sympathy for him. He was dumping on Matt, instantly ticked me off. I was like, Matt's trying to help you, and he does help you. That was wizardry. Him talking to that attorney. I'm assuming it was she must have been part of the court system or something. Her position isn't stated, but I'm assuming she's some court functionary. And Matt gets it argued down from 35 to 10. That was wizardry. I was like, holy crap. And this guy's sitting there just like, no, I want more probation. Well, you don't get to probation. That's not how it works. You break a law, there are consequences. And this man took your consequences from here because of your lifetime of breaking the law and not caring to down here, which was amazing. And Matt was completely right. That deserves a thank you, counselor. You worked magic. But no, this guy's just like, no, I want everything my way all the time. Oh, God, I hate him. Just absolutely hated him from this beginning. I was just like, oh my God, this guy. Woo! And their argument about deterrence not working, I'm like, well, okay, deterrence may not work, but we need laws, and laws have to be backed up by punishments. Like, deterrence is the ideal. We can't just say we're not going to do anything unless we achieve the ideal. No, we work towards the ideal. We start out and then we try to improve it, get it better, and be like, okay, it's called refinement. Like when I started sketching, yeah, I look like crap. And through the years, I have improved, I have refined, I have gotten better because that's how systems work. You keep working at them so that they're better and better and better. You don't just throw up your hands and say, like, well, it's not perfect, so we're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as my German friend would say. Throw the gun in the corn. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Anyway, so moving on to the next point. Um, Matt's confrontation with Officer Powell. That was telling because not to him himself, but it shows he's not committed to letting the system work. If he was, he would ignore it and say, like, the system's going to work it out. No, he gets in this guy's face and just goes out of his way to antagonize this guy and get him to do something. He's picking a fight. Like I said, I grew up in West Virginia. I know what picking a fight looks like. So Matt has decided that on some level inside himself, he has decided the system is not working. And this behavior right here is the first crack, the first step towards him going back to Daredevil and sorting things out because the system ain't going to take care of it. Um, the next scene, when Fisk is laying out his vision for, what is it, Red Hook? They call it the docks down there. I liked it. Like you look around and you see this decrepit area that's full of potential. It's a dock. I mean, more so now than ever. We've got shipments coming in from all over the world, stuff going out. A dock would be awesome. A dock would generate a ton of revenue. So he lays out this like let's get the dock system back working again. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. Like I actually agree with him completely. Like, yeah, I mean, his criminal behavior beside, but his behavior as mayor, I'm like, yeah, this is actually a good idea. And then you've got this Sheila person, I think that's her name, the city person who's just telling him no, 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 no. And he says it himself. He's like, you're here to provide solutions. And all I'm hearing are problems. And he's right. She doesn't, I like when he asks her, okay, what do we need to do? What's the process? She doesn't know. She has to guesstimate because she is not somebody whose position exists to provide solutions. She's just there to tell him no all the time and say, like, no, don't do that. You need to go meet these kids. No, don't do that. You got to go talk to these Latvians and such. What she needs to do. Yeah, I mean, the mayor's got to talk to the people. But at the same time, she's like a handler for the city to keep him from actually doing anything. She is an antagonist. Absolutely. And if she's not on the take with the rest of the city, like the city council and such, that want to shut him down and make him look bad, then I would be deeply surprised. And I think that's the point, is that they keep telling him no so that they can paint him as somebody who's failed as a mayor. They're setting him up to fail when all he's doing is trying to restore things. And like when I made the previous thing where he filled in the hole without consulting anybody, I'm like, well, yeah, that you would need some engineers to swing by to make sure it's safe to do that. And what do you need to do to effectively do this? But that's those are minor issues. You could just call. I'm assuming you could probably say, hey, we need, this is your job. You're a city engineer. Get down here. We need to fix this. Mayor says so. You're like, okay, that's your job. Like I've had many jobs where I've been like, "This is your job, go do it." Okay. But this doc thing, they're just like, "Oh no, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this." And by the time all that's done, his term's over. Like, is he even going to be the mayor by the time all this? So trying to paint him as some kind of union buster or something like that, or as nefarious in some way. I was like, no, this is no, they're trying to set him up to fail, and I don't like that. And I'm in Fisk's corner for some of this stuff. I mean, when he's trying to restore these docks, I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely, this is a great idea. Yeah, let the man cook, let him cook. So there was that. Let's hear. Oh yeah, more Leroy, woe is me. Oh, and that was another point that I wanted to make real quick about Leroy. He's like, "Oh, I'm homeless, whatever, blah blah blah." In a previous scene, he says, "I gotta get home," and I'm like, "Wait, I thought you were some hobo." So you do have a home, and he's saying, "Woe is me, I ain't got no money, whatever." Look at his beard. Yeah, you see his beard? That dude's beard was 100 times more clean shaven and cared for than mine. So he's not selling the image of somebody who's destitute, that needs a hand up to get a dessert. That is more than likely a failure on the part of the makeup people and the image people, whoever works on the TV show. However, now it's in the TV show, and now you could argue it's canon. Be like, well, you're clean shaven, you got clean clothes, you look, nobody's complaining about you smelling bad or anything like that. I'm like, I don't buy that you're a hobo. I don't buy your destitution, sir. You're gonna need to sell it a little bit more for me. And and he's just sitting there, woe is me, all this stuff, and you're like, come on, dude. He just, oh man, I really hated him, and I hated that Matt agreed with him later on. I was just like, stop it, Matt, come on. This guy's a menace. Like he's not a menace in the sense of a murderer or rapist or an arsonist or some destructiveness, but he's just, I mean, 20 to 25 pages of a rap sheet. He's just going to keep doing this. And it's not about deterrence at this point. It's about this is this guy's lifestyle. This is what he wants to be. This is who he wants to be. And so all these shop owners, when he's around, they're going to have to be on edge and be like, "Oh, here comes this guy. He's going to steal my stuff again." And while you and I can argue, oh, it's, 10, $15 and stuff, I'm like, well, does the shop owner want to keep taking a $10 to $15 hit every time this guy's in the same neighborhood? It's like, come on. Even though it's a petty law, it's still a law. You just can't steal stuff. And you certainly can't just keep stealing and stealing and stealing until you've got 20 to 25 pages of drugs and stealing and, just being a nuisance and a menace. I know the show is desperate for me to be sympathetic with him and say, this poor guy. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. I hate this guy. It's like, I'm just like, I hate Baby at the same time. I'm just like, yeah, some of these characters that were set up are just like, "Eesh." Also, why do they keep bringing up Jefferson Starships built this city? Like with the little kids, I guess I could kind of understand. Maybe they picked that song because Fisk is of that age group. Maybe. I was like, well, okay, whatever. And then the Latvians sing it. I was like, why on earth would the Latvians sing it? Was that his, if that's his slogan for his campaign, they needed to show that a little bit more so that, you're like, oh, well, they're singing it because that's his campaign slogan and they believe with him. And so I'm like, it was just weird the way it came up again and again. It was just weird. Um, let's see what else here. Oh yeah, when the BB report again, filming that filming that woman on the street who's just like, oh look, Fisk is corrupt about the garbage. There's garbage everywhere, and I'm like, there's garbage everywhere because his plan got torpedoed, and his hands are tied, and he can't effect the change that he wants. He's being set up for failure, and look, it's working. Word on the street is he's a failure. He's corrupt. So you're just kind of like, I feel like people are shoving him into being the kingpin and not giving him an opportunity to actually be a worthwhile mayor. So it's kind of frustrating because so far I've been agreeing with a lot of the stuff he's saying and doing and such. And I'm like, well, yeah, he was a criminal, but I believe it's represented in the continuity in the universe that he did his time or something. So you're like, well, give the man a chance. I like his ideas. Anyway, uh, also, if the city is so bad about crime and such, why is Matt this dressing rich, obviously wealthy, good, well-to-do gentleman who is blind walking around the city? Why is he not jumped? I know he could defeat anybody that would jump him theoretically. I was like, but why isn't he getting jumped? And nobody else is either. It's just kind of like, oh, the city's so bad. And I'm like, it's so bad that nothing's happening. Like, I came from a city where, if you were out past a certain time and you were in a vulnerable position, you could expect for bad things to happen. And yeah, I've been on the wrong end of that stuff. And yeah, so I was just kind of wondering. I was like, man, Matt, you're getting away with bloody murder here. Let's see here. They should have showed also. They should have showed Matt tracking by smell when he's figuring thing when he finds the Punisher, Frank Castle, because having him hear something seemed a little weird. I was just like, what is he listening for? Like, what is the clack of firearms? I'm sure plenty of people have firearms in that freaking neighborhood. But I felt like they should have just showed just have a little 2 second, you know, he tracks by scent, and you're like, okay, I get it. But that's it's minor, little, tiny little grip. Uh, why also when we meet Castle, why is he taking pills? What are those pills? That was weird. I was just like, is it blood pressure? Is it moods? I was just kind of like, I was like, why is the Punisher on pills? Whatever. Again, minor. And it was nice to see that it was nice to see that it is fanboys. It has been established now that you've got the Punisher fan club. It wasn't actually Frank himself, which begs the question: what is Frank doing? What is he up to? Because he's represented as doing something in the scene, and we've seen things that are established lightly in previous episodes become the truth. Wilson Fisk Knuckles. I told y'all. I told y'all. So, what has Frank been up to? He's got the cut and such, or just like, okay, so stuff's been going on with him that is separate from this fanboy stuff. And was that even a Punisher fanboy that killed Hector Ayala, or was that one of Fisk's people? You know, just wearing that shirt to throw the scent off. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. That was well done. I love the Matt and Frank Castle scene. I mean, Frank just he nails every point right on the head, and John Bernthal's acting. Oh, plus his voice. His voice has gotten even better over the years. He sounds, love that. That is just, that was some great acting, like especially when Matt smacks him and he's just like, sorry, and you're just like, and Castle's like, that's the first honest thing you've done. I'm like, yep, just everything. I loved that scene. That scene is so. The entire episode is worth watching for that scene alone. Seems fantastic. Like when we had before, we had Fisk and Matt in the diner. Now we've got Castle and Matt in Castle's workshop den, whatever you want to call it. So the world is reinforcing that Daredevil needs to get back out there and do something. So that was fantastic. Yeah, and I love how he's just like, Matt's just like, Bullseye got life. And he's like, yeah, did Foggy get life? Exactly. That's the thing. Bullseye's going to sit there in prison. It's going to suck, but he's still alive. He's still being fed and clothed, medical care, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm sure he has to defend himself here and there and so on and so forth. And he's got no freedom and such, but it's not what Foggy got. And Matt hit it on the head. Foggy's, you will never meet somebody as decent as Foggy in the show. You're just like, this guy right here. Yeah. The death of Foggy was the death of decency and innocence. And that's what Matt really needs to learn is that now we're past the point of decency, you know, and to keep reinforcing the theme of forgiveness throughout this. And I'm just like, do we really need forgiveness? Is that going to solve anything? I don't think so. Oh yeah, and the fact that they were saying Leroy's gonna serve a week on Rikers. I'm like, would they do the intake and the transport and all that such over just for a guy who's just gonna sit there for a week? I, maybe that's the case, but I figured they'd keep him in county or city jail or whatever. Since the sentence is so short, it's just kind of like, well, what's the point? But maybe they do. I don't know. That's something to look up maybe at some point. And we saw Fisk with a captive Adam. I loved how first you see Fisk coming down into his lair. You know, it's like, okay, I knew he had a secret lair. You see him eating real food. I'm just like, yep, I knew it. I knew it. Here's a little pro tip. All those mornings you saw Fisk eating one egg white and one sprig of asparagus. You cannot maintain a body that size on that. It is not going to happen. I have found out the hard way over and over again through the years. You need calories. You gotta have fuel. I mean, he's not even working out or whatever, but yeah, but he's huge. Like he's a huge man. Like, and even though he's lost a considerable amount of weight, which is obvious, you're like, okay, fine. I was like, man, I was like, if he's eating one egg white and one sprig of asparagus, he's gonna be sugar crashing by lunchtime. You know? So seeing him down in his lair eating an actual meal, I was just like, yep, there we go. There we go. That makes way more sense. And the fact that Adam was in a cage. I'm sorry. I don't feel bad for Adam. And I'll tell you why, it's not right. I'm not defending the behavior. Get that very straight. I'm not defending the behavior. It is still wrong. It is legal. It should be punished. But at the same time, you boinked the kingpin's wife. What did you expect to happen? Like, oh, well, he was away. You're just like, so what? It was like, at the very least, there are still men who are devoted to Kingpin, loyal to Kingpin. And if they don't take care of business themselves, I mean, they would probably get word back to him wherever he is saying, hey, which apparently they did because Kingpin knew about that. And you're like, okay, I mean, Adam, dude, like, sorry, dude, it sucks, it's wrong, it's illegal, it should be punished, but it's not any surprise to me at all. So, yeah, and he kept his word. He didn't kill him. God, it's awful. It's freaking awful. That poor dude. Sorry, Adam, you're gonna suffer for a while, bro. Yeesh. Um, Matt also, Matt going up to the roof to train again. See, I had it called when he talked to Powell. I was like, he's done. He's done with the legal system. I recognize that's the Six Semper Systema, the Latin. Thus always to the system. I was like, yeah. I was like, but Matt's done with the system. It's like in the Matrix when Neo comes to the Oracle. Yeah, that was her name. And she's like, you didn't come here to make a decision. You came here to understand the decision you've already made. It's the same thing Matt's doing. He didn't confront Powell to make a decision. He confronted Powell to try and understand the decision he's already made, which is to put the suit back on and get back out there. And he wants to know, well, why am I doing this? Why is my heart in this fight? And that's good. That's heroes need to do that. Heroes need to know why their heart's in a fight. Also, nice little shout out when he's training. He's doing a little chain whip for him. As somebody who's trained in that, among tons of other things, it was nice seeing an actual, real martial art being practiced. Oh, for those of you out there, the chain whip is it's rope dart form, it's chain whip form. It's basically anything where you've got a line, which could be a rope, it could be a chain, it could be whatever. And at the end, you could have a bludgeon, you could have a sharp weapon, whatever. But the point is to spin and use your body to increase the power of the strike that you eventually make, and also to kind of obfuscate what you're doing. To throw the opponent off because they're going to be watching this thing going all over the place. They're not really sure where the attack's going to be coming from. And it was cool seeing not only that actual real form being practiced, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't know he had a little freaking what do they call it? Kusari Gama? Is that what they call him? Whatever. Yeah, the rope chain weapon as part of his arsenal. I was like, well, I guess that may be like the rope thing when he's swinging. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I'm sure they'll explain it later. It was cool though. It was very cool to see him practicing. And I mean, at that point, he's on the roof. He's loosening up. He's getting the skills back. He knows he's going out at this point. He hasn't actually put the mask on, but he's just kind of like, you know what? I got to do something. I got to do this. And again, showing that the serial killer at the end, I'm assuming he paints with blood. Man, it's kind of the guy who plays Vampire the Masquerade and such or something. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like that guy might be a little bit of a bloat. Might be like, okay, what are we doing here? We haven't seen, unless it's subtle, unless there's some incident that happened in the first four episodes that's tied to him. I haven't seen that he's been directly tied to the events and conflicts that are happening. He's creating his own conflict that it has doesn't appear to have anything to do with the conflicts we were paying attention to. I, I so like I feel like if he was a seed for season two, they would do it in the season finale or something like that. But if he's part of this, it's going to be very busy. It feels it's like you've got Matt's going to have to deal with Fisk and so on and so forth. He's going to have to deal with the Punisher fanboys, maybe with the Punisher. He's going to have to deal with corrupt cops. He's going to have to deal with, I mean, and now this guy too. It's like, oh, yeah, let's pace ourselves here. It's like plate's a little full. But anyway, all that being said, the show is amazing. It continues to be amazing, very thrilling, very engaging. The fact that I'm having such an emotional reaction about it means that they're doing a lot right. So definitely highly recommend. Go check it out. It's on Disney Plus. Hopefully the viewership numbers are improving because it's a show that deserves to be watched. It doesn't deserve to die in obscurity like poor Firefly and all those shows that actually turn out to be cult favorites later on because people are like, oh, hey, that's actually really good. I wish I watched should have watched it when it came out. That's the situation right here. So anyway, that's my review. I'm sticking with it for now. It's a beautiful day out. Go on and get out and get some sunshine, drink lots of water, and do a little exercise, maybe eat a vegetable or two. I put this advice out here because I'm forced to do it, so I'm trying to help everybody out. But you all have a good one. I will talk to you in the next one. Bye now.